presentation message. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So welcome everybody to this workshop, which I've put together with the help of IFLA headquarters. We're doing it on behalf of IFLA, which is the International Federation of Library Associations, which is a peak body in the area of information and in the information sector. And IFLA is a major supporter of the IGF and also represented on the MAG, I think. And I've been involved in the APrIGF, the regional, national regional initiative in the Asia Pacific area for a few years. We've done a workshop for IFLA each year or most years. And in most years, we have focused on information for the community and the digital divide, steps to overcome that in the community, and the role of libraries to provide not just literacy support, but also digital literacy support to the community. And in particular, the thought in our minds, or the message that we want to get across, is that we all depend on the internet, depend on an open, neutral internet, an affordable internet with affordable connections, and equally the services, the people, the organizations that provide the internet and make it work should be aware, we think, that we, the library sector, are among the people who provide the good content, and we have the same values as the tech sector. We are working for neutral information. We are working for democratic access to information, and we are aware of the same public policy issues, things which come up in the whole program of this conference, things like human rights on the net, cybersecurity, safety of people who are searching for information on the net, and many of these public policy things which we in our own countries advocate for to our own authorities. So here in this workshop, we have three speakers. We have Louise Denun from Australia, from the Queensland State Library, and we have Gita Thapa from Nepal, who is a former president of the Nepali Library Association, and we have Sarah Peck from the National Library Board of Singapore. So we have a variety of speakers from different countries, different parts of the region, in different stages of development, with different populations, different geographical areas. So a relatively wide variety of experiences are going to be reported. And we're talking about digital information literacy provided by library services. So I will now hand the mic over to Louise to talk about what she does in Queensland, Australia.
So if you press the video to play. This is my opportunity before I begin to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and work here in Queensland. We acknowledge our First Nations communities and their ancestors who looked after the lands and were custodian of this country for generations. And we're inspired by that tradition in the work that we do here at State Library. So thank you. It's fantastic to be here and to be able to participate in this discussion. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So in this slide, I'm really here, and I'm sure the other speakers will be as well, to talk about the superpowers of libraries. They really are amazing, trusted spaces in local communities. They have always traditionally been a place to come and borrow books, but really that's information in another form. So this, the libraries are moving and moving with the digital age. They've been doing it for decades and decades, and they do provide digital access to information, including providing Wi-Fi to their communities, public access to computers. But most importantly of all, I think they employ superheroes, and really librarians are information professionals committed to communities being informed and literate and being able to navigate contemporary digital world. So if we go to the next slide. Our work in Australia in public libraries is also informed by this key piece of research that's done every year, which is the Australian Digital Inclusion Index. So how do we know who's being included, who might be being left behind? And this study that's done, it measures inclusion in 3 ways. So it's about access. So for many communities, unfortunately still, actually access to the internet is still an issue that we need to be advocating for and providing, that no one gets left behind. There's also affordability. So you might be able to access it, but not afford it. And then when you've got all of this access and able to use things, what is your ability and capability to use it? So libraries do a lot of work in the ability space of training, and I'll talk a bit about there, but I suppose libraries are also places of access and affordability, like by providing free access. So you can see there with the map of Australia that the index that, which places are doing well and which aren't. And I think it's important that our work in libraries is also evidence-led. Next slide, please. So in Queensland particularly, we do have, just to give a snapshot, there are 323 public libraries and Indigenous knowledge centres across the state. The map on the other side shows where there's low digital inclusion. So they're the places that we're particularly focusing on at the moment, but it does help to divvy that up. There are 3,322 public access devices. 95% have free Wi-Fi, and very importantly, 12,000 digital inclusion programs were run with 78,000 people attending. So that was, some of COVID impacted this, but it gives you a sense of the breadth and the opportunity by working with public libraries. So next slide. Next slide.
Owen.
That's okay. The next slide, I can keep talking. The next slide is actually a whole lot of elected representatives from some of Queensland's most regional and remote and disadvantaged communities. And you can see in this activity that we did with them at a conference that they all have, when you see the detail, they've all identified and chosen that connected to the world, free Wi-Fi, information, it's really important that it is actually valued. So I'll just keep talking. We don't necessarily need the presentation. So there are a number of programs being run in public libraries around digital inclusion. So older people are some of the most digitally excluded in our population. So we've been working with public libraries on a Tech Savvy Seniors, which is a skills-based for older Australians, and that is about, it's just as much about social inclusion as digital, but it really is those very basic entry level, how to FaceTime your children, how to get account how to do streaming and to access information. It's also that libraries are a place, with another slide I've got there, where people are exposed to new technology and seeing things, whether it's VR or whether it's 3D printing, that they're seeing that for the first time. So
next slide, I think, Louise.
Yeah, I'm up to slide number 7 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just talking, yeah, about
number 7. Can we have number 7, please?
Yes, sorry, just give us 1 second.
So I think the point I'm with the presentation, it's that, you know, there are different approaches for different levels of digital inclusion, whether it's with seniors, whether it's with exposure. And the very last slide I have there, oh, there it is, that's looking good. That libraries are also this place where you can be exposed to technology and learn some of the basics, and things that are out of reach of people with affordability, people can lend and utilise in these local places. So the very last slide is the next one, slide 8, is a picture from the Torres Strait. So this is a program that we've been working on with different councils and communities around deadly digital communities. We know that First Nations people in Australia are some of the most are quite disadvantaged on the index, and how do we work and how to address that imbalance and look at ways that we make digital relevant and accessible here. So the recording of languages, the recording of stories, the tracking the impact of climate change on the environment. These are all to understand not just digital, but the application of it, and the ownership and sovereignty around using digital and understanding that. So hopefully you saw enough of the presentation to give you an idea, but I think that's my time. Thank you, Winston.
Thanks, Louise. I've just put a question for you in the chat. I don't know if you've if you'd like to address that. I just asked whether the services to the Torres Strait Islanders are in their language, or maybe languages plural, or are they all in English?
Yeah, and it's delivered locally. So there is a great interest in Australia of in First Nations community of reclaiming and that recording endangered languages for future generations. So it is a real driver for learning how to use the technology. And, you know, there are, you know, hundreds of languages in Australia, and including 4 in the Torres Strait. So it's a sort of case-by-case example approach.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Right, we had a little bit of a problem there with the technology, so no time to ask other questions just at the moment. So I think we need to go straight on to the presentation by Gita Thapa from Nepal. Gita, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Namaste and good morning from Nepal. Many thanks to IFLA and APrIGF for providing me this golden opportunity to have such a big platform in the second time. Now, the topics of my presentation is building digital information literacy skills for trust and well-being in Nepal. Next, ma'am. Digital literacy, it includes digital tools, knowledge, critical thinking, social engagement. Government of Nepal, Ministry of Education, Information and Communication Technology, ICT in Education Master Plan 2013 to 2017. The main goals are included to expand equitably access to education, to enhance the quality of education, to reduce the digital divide, to improve the service delivery system in education. Next. About 45% of the total population of Nepal lives in the hills, which cover an area of 61,345 square kilometers. Total literacy rate 67.9%. Mobile penetration percentage is almost 100%. Even though mobile penetration stands at almost 100%, it has not been able to provide internet access to all citizens and the service. And the quality of mobile service providers is also not as expected. There are the average 676 community libraries. It is not exactly not the data. We are going to survey the data also. Each library is not involved in digital literacy activities. The libraries themselves need further training. Ministry of Education, in collaboration with Read Nepal and SBA, Shanti Volunteer Association Japan, is working on collecting data of public and community libraries. Then we will have the exact data of community and public libraries in the Nepal. Next slide. Different training has been conducting in training on digital information literacy from Read Nepal. The subject coverage are basic computer literacy, use of apps, Skype, Messenger, Viber, WhatsApp, use of smartphones, searching online contents, media literacy, understand digital media source of information, misinformation and disinformation, using social media, online safety, understanding cybercrime. We have seen that the senior citizens also are enjoying to have the online access. So free access to utilization of ICT section by community people, training orientation on ICT, blogging and YouTube upload, coverage on social media. Next, ma'am. The tag is the Tech Age Girls activities. The participants are learning. I want to share one information in this platform that if we provide 10 tag girls training, it will multiply by 10 also 100, because one participant, they will also give training in their community area 10. So 10 into 10 into 100 participants will be available in our community areas. That is the very advantageous part of this tag training. Next, ma'am. Next slide, ma'am. In the participants are able to develop online content. Sir, previous slide, ma'am. It is not completed. Develop online content, transform skills, access information in library, critical thinking, online safety. Next now. So it is the vision. Yes, online safety. It promotes online safety toolkits. Safety toolkit promotes digital hygiene, how to stay safe while using the internet. For adolescents and rural Nepal toolkit and research by Hamro Palo. Hamro Palo is in English our turn, and Nepali is Hamro Palo, formed in 2016. It presents opportunities of online resources for learning, social connection, major threats, adolescent stories, tools to stay safe, ways to report cases of abuse. So far, Hamro Palo, our turn, has worked with 5,660 adolescent girls in 74 schools of Sindhu Palchok district and Gorkha district, and with 876 adolescent boys. Next, ma'am. Next slide, ma'am. There are major threats and case stories of adolescent behaviors on online platforms like sexual harassment, early marriage, human trafficking, cyberbullying, also known as HEPAI in Nepal. In cyberbullying, we call HEPAI in Nepali language. Digital safety steps guidelines. We have to prepare the digital safety step guidelines also. Reporting online threats and abuse and safety for children and youth. Child sexual abuse, images and videos or criminal contents can be anonymously reported to Internet Watch Foundation of Nepal. Some organization working towards this goal, Child SafeNet, Forum for Digital Equality, Internet Society, Nepal, etc. Online Child Safety Initiative. These are the organizations which we are working. Next slide, ma'am. Child SafeNet, cyber safety training for youth, cyber safety awareness in various schools, training of trainers on cyber safety, parenting in digital age, research and survey to understand behavior of youth and children. In the many schools they are running the programs in the Safer Internet Day program. Many schools celebrated activities to provide safer internet for children and young people with a theme, Together for a Better Internet, to raise awareness on online risks and protecting them. So these different schools, Bagmati school, AP school, etc. Next, ma'am. This is the Internet Society Nepal, which is located in rural Nepal. ICT centers in rural Nepal. This is the image of this ICT center of rural Nepal. Security challenges with work from home, policy making for ICT sector. Next, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Geeta. That was excellent. I have 1,000 questions, but I'm afraid not enough time to ask them. The greatest message I took from your presentation is that, well, two messages. One is that the staff of the public libraries absolutely need training to provide such sophisticated messages relating to human rights, to safety of their clients, to the developing experience of young people in society. And therefore, I hope that there's enough funding from the government to provide this training, because yes, I think it must be the government who is ultimately responsible.
Yes.
But I'm also very glad to see the other message that you are paying so much attention to the technical awareness and digital literacy for young people, so that they understand the information which they are receiving through the internet.
Yes.
Sir,
I want to one point I have leave in my slides. It is what some problem there. So I want to say that there must be some collaboration between ICT personnel and librarians. We librarians are working from so many years, but we are very unavailable of the ICT activities. So when you give me this task, so I will search all the ICT activities from the internet and got the information. That will be very necessary. I am saying in this great platform that ICT personnel and librarians should be in collaboration, partnership to work in this field. Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Now, let's see. Let me just check the time. I think we need to ask now Sarah to speak. Sarah Peck from National Library Board of Singapore. Come in, please.
Hello, is the slide ready? Okay, thanks. Thank you. Hello, friends and colleagues. Thank you for having me here in these sessions. I'm delighted to share with you today about the Information Literacy Program at the National Library Board, Singapore. Next slide, please. Internet has great impacts on the libraries, as it is a means of organizing, sharing, and distributing information locally and globally. Digital library services played an important role for public libraries through an ecosystem which combines people, content, technologies with equitable access to these entities. As we know, technologies is evolving all the time. It is harder for people to engage with a wide and diverse range of informations, which worsens their exposure to misinformation. People need to know how to navigate the internet, protect themselves from online harms, and stay safe online. The internet well-being participation in society, and prospects of learning and employment require a new set of skills to thrive in the digital age. Next slide. In 2013, the National Library Board launched an information literacy program called SURE to raise awareness of information searching and information discernment. SURE stands for Source, Understand, Research, Evaluate. It is an acronym to remind us to assess information effectively and critically. The campaign aims to reach a broad spectrum of the populations. Can I have the next slide, please? Of the populations, so we have been trying very hard to reach as many people as possible, such as the students, working adults, and seniors, to build an informed citizenry. Next slide. Now, here are some examples. At the school front, we partner with the Ministries of Education to integrate the information literacy programs into the school curriculum. As part of outreach, librarians give talks on media literacy and introduce the treasure trove of library collections. School activities also includes competitions and have always been popular with students to put the skills to test. Next, please. At the workplace, we partner organizations to conduct workshops for the workers, as well as train the trainers sessions. These programs cover the fundamentals of recognizing online misinformation and fact-checking using freely available tools and resources. Next, please. For the elderly, the public libraries organize talks and offer digital clinics to foster their self-efficacy to assess, understand, and evaluate online information. Next. Last year, a newspaper gallery was opened at the National Library to showcase the Singapore earliest newspapers collections and online archive of early Singapore newspapers. Visitors can learn and test their knowledge of fake news through games and activity at the gallery. Next. Besides running programs, the libraries also produce a wide range of learning content in various formats to impart information skills to students and the public. Next. The COVID-19 outbreaks has resulted in explosions of fake news on social media and internet sites. They are detrimental to the efforts to curb the spread of the disease. Librarians have contributed to the fight against fake news by raising awareness, providing credible information sources to the public, collection development, research support, and sharing best practices at conferences and forums such as this webinar. Perhaps the pandemic has taught us the importance of media and information literacy education in times of crisis. Thank you. The next slide is, yes, thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's a very good summary of some of the dangers of the modern information society, I think, and how you are teaching people, young people especially, but also seniors, to defend themselves against some of the dangers. But let's not be negative. There are also huge positive messages in your presentation about how people positively can use information and how to search for it, how to understand it and evaluate it. Are there any other questions in the chat? Just let me have a quick look. Thank you, Carrie, for your reminder. There was a question in the chat from Xiaobo Yang about warning young people against internet games addiction. I think we can refer that to the Q&A session at the end. Can you just make a mental note that that's a question, maybe games addiction, that we should discuss with young people? Right, thank you to the three speakers. We are now at the beginning of the, we should be at the beginning of the Q&A session for the general public, in our general audience in our session. But before we go on to the Q&A session, I want to ask our three speakers, one after the other, what I think modestly is a very serious question, and that is, what does the information society mean to you in three words, so to speak? And how do you feel that we're making progress in the services you provide? Are you making progress towards a better society, a better information society? And what would it take to make further progress? Louise, can I ask you first if you have any brief comments on that? An impossible question maybe, but maybe just some comments from that occur to you.
Yeah, tricky question, but certainly something that I think as people working in libraries, we're very aware of. And I think that there is such an opportunity like never before for everyone to have access to our collections and reputable, materials. So there's this opportunity, and we need to carve out that space and continue that role of being a trusted place that curates information, that provides access. And, we at State Library, we've got a very strong philosophy of putting our collections out there where people can find them. So whether it's loading them to Flickr or to Wikipedia, and actually being actively engaged in getting our collections and information to the people who need them or can use them and require them. And there is this, I think there's still this opportunity with all of the risks and concerns and the dark side of what can happen online is also this, libraries' belief in our societies are stronger if our communities are informed and aware and can participate in the democratic process. And that is increasingly online. So in some ways it's different, but some ways I think those foundational beliefs of libraries actually really help us in this space as well.
Thank you, Louise. That's a very good point. Introducing the importance of democracy, democratic processes in society as a significant goal. Gita, can I ask you the same question? What is the information society in Nepal? Have you achieved it? Probably not, but nobody has fully achieved it ever. So what will it take you to achieve, to improve the information society that you have?
It is for me, sir. Yes, sir, thank you very much for this very high level question. That is in my own experience, it was my dream since 40 years to have a informative society and information society. Now it has come to true. I am in this big platform in virtual meeting. So it is my great achievement, sir. It is the dream came true. And being the information society or informative society in the country, in my point of view, the parallel development should be go, just like education, agriculture, and health, all, and along with the ICT communication technology. This side also will be go a parallel way in the developing country like Nepal. And in this, from the library side, in this pandemic situation, many libraries, the community libraries are providing the services to the needy people: food, clothes, hand sanitizer, mask, and education for the pregnant woman. And the government is, and government, non-government institution organization is also organizing the telemedicine program, pharmacy activities, all these. And this will improve the, contribute to improve the SDG goals 1, 3,
Yep.
and 4 are in health also.
Yes.
And
Thank you,
another
Gita.
side that we are providing the training for tag girls. So it is also implement for the 5 and 10 SDG goals are to discriminate the equality, to minimize the inequality part also, because they became the self-sufficient, the girls are. And women empowerment also, you know, for the livelihood, library is not providing the information only. For the livelihood, it also provide the training for handmade, just like bags, shoes. So it will support to become sustainable, and it will provide the 11 SDG goals. It contribute to meet the 11 sustainable goals, sir.
Thank you, Gita. I'm glad you mentioned the SDGs, because I was going to mention that myself. I don't have to now. It's perfectly clear. All countries have to work harder towards achieving even half of the SDGs. We're not making much progress globally at the moment. But also education is the big one, isn't it? Goal 4, education. And teaching everyone critical thinking skills is important, and that's part of our job in providing public services in education and libraries. Teaching critical thinking.
Yes.
That was also one of the messages. That was one of the messages at the opening session yesterday.
The life learning work is doing. I agree. Each and every library, sir.
Yes.
Continuing services in offline, online. It is the duty of library.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Gita, sorry to cut you off, but we need to ask Sarah for your reactions to that in just a few words. So then we go into the Q&A session.
Yeah, I think in the information society, library has also been trying hard to get the public to be digitally included, so that more people can enjoy the benefits of the platforms, the technology, and we call ourselves the leveler, equalizer. So we've always been pushing out for technology showcases at the library, and to look out for gaps that we can fill, people with disability, the vulnerable groups. But we need to work with partners. We can't do it alone. And so while we were looking at the online harms, definitely we should also be positive and look like all that we can enjoy and benefit from access to the information for learning, from entertainment, and many good things from the internet. So that's something is like a mission for libraries and librarians.
Thank you, Sarah. Interesting that you mentioned partners, because obviously collaboration is an important word as well. We cannot all do things alone. We need partners, both at civil society partners and government partners, and sometimes also commercial business partners to run our services. And yes. Somebody before asked a question about stakeholders, so park that idea for a moment. But now I want to sort of officially close the first half of the session and say that now we are open for all questions from all comers in our audience. Feel free to raise your hand, use the reactions function at the bottom of the screen, and click on the little gold hand, a yellow hand, if you want to ask a question, and then I will call on you and you can say who you would like to direct your question to one speaker or maybe more than one speaker, and we'll then give you a chance to ask your question quickly, and I'll ask the speakers to reply as briefly as they can because time is not on our side. And then, excuse me, we will hopefully be able to explore one or two of the issues that the speakers raised that they didn't have time to go into in further detail in their actual presentations. Okay, are there any speakers, audience members who have raised hands? Okay, look, nobody at the moment, as far as I can see. Can we ask, there was a person who asked the question before about stakeholders, and I'm trying to find who that person was. I think it was Brenda.
Brenda, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Winston. Thank you. Louis, could you expand a little bit how the other important stakeholders are involved in the initiatives that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so I think it's so important that we work across, because we're part of a digital economy and a digital society. We don't just work in isolation. And some of our programs that we've developed have had funding from our telecommunication partners here, Telstra, and also the Department of Communities has funded different things. I think at the local level, at implementation, and what we call it deeply local in people's communities, that there are partnerships being built with, it might be the Men's Shed or the Country Women's Association or the Elders Group or the Health. I think it's really librarians and the work. We sort of work with local government, but they're on the ground building the partnerships from the ground up in terms of what will work well. One of the ones that's been obvious is with schools and with the education sector, and some lovely programs have happened of intergenerational learning between older, between seniors and the high school students, and the high school students teaching the, people, the seniors how to use the technology and to become empowered with it. So I think there are deeply local partnerships that get fostered, and then we work across the state to secure funding to look at the infrastructure that's there in terms of the ICT infrastructure as well. So I'm not sure if that was the sort of question or whether you've got a particular example, Brenda.
I think that pretty much answers what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised at the moment, but I do recall that somebody asked a question about how you protect young people from various addictions on the net. The example given was games addiction, but I can imagine other possible addictions that young people might be subject to. What do the speakers think about training librarians, without training them in child psychology? How difficult is it to find in your professional communities, how easy or how difficult is it to find staff who have the communication skills, the empathy necessary to explain to vulnerable young people or older people how to defend themselves against some of these dangers? Sarah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is an area that many of us has been asked at the library by parents and teachers to conduct sessions on how to overcome online addictions. We are not the experts, but we can see the increase in awareness of this area. It's more like a digital empowerment and wellness area. And so we are looking at working with partners who have been working very closely with the youth. But of course, we also infuse aspects of critical thinking and cyber wellness, cyberbullying awareness tips. So this is actually a real problem that we are faced with. We go in there to more of understanding, as well as giving some tips on what's there on the online that we can be able to relate to the students. We do hold competitions and activity in schools for the students to actually have a voice and also share what they are undergoing. But this is really an area that it's pressing. I would see as it going to take up our attention to focus as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think especially in smaller communities, there's also this opportunity for for community conversations. And I know, for instance, when there's elder abuse through internet banking, where the children do the internet banking on behalf of the, so unfortunately, I don't think there's a quick fix, but I think those community-wide conversations about seniors abuse. The other one I was thinking about was online gambling and the havoc it can wreak on different communities, and how to also put people in touch with, whether it's in Australia or the e-safety commissioner. There are a lot of resources out there, but they're not as obvious for people to reach and connect to. And I think libraries can also be a place where you can introduce young people to other ways of having fun and pleasure, whether it's reading or doing a jigsaw or working collectively and making something. Like, I think it is that we need that full spectrum and being able to offer other alternatives. And a library is often a safe place to explore other alternatives than a game.
Yes, thank you. I see Nirosha has a question. Nirosha, please.
Hi, I'm Nirosha from Sri Lanka. Not a question, like just to add something from our country, Sri Lanka. So also in Sri Lanka also we face the regarding the game addiction. So in Sri Lanka we also having the same issue. We face a lot of problems because with the pandemic, the students has already gone online. Before pandemic, they are restricted to using mobile phones. Young children in the schools, they are prohibited like. So then soon after pandemic, they are asked to use the mobile phones. So then after, what will happen soon after they got this, it's become like an addiction. So then after, what was happen, like parent cannot control these children. So some of the cases in Sri Lanka, this students has already committed suicide because parents asked to remove these addictions, get off from the addiction, and advices to children. Then after they couldn't cope up and they cannot get rid of this, and so committed suicide. So it was a very sad situation here. So we in our internet society, they are already having some discussion forums on that regarding the parent. In the parent side, again, they are facing like a lot of problem because they cannot control life. So that is happening in the Sri Lanka in the moment. So that is just to share my ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirosha. That is a very important question. I agree. And speaking from momentarily here from New Zealand, I can say that in my country, suicide by young people is a problem. And sometimes it is caused by persecution, harassment of those young people through social media. This is a tragedy, and all societies are faced with this to some degree. So thank you for raising that question. Geeta, I noticed that in your presentation, you mentioned that mobile penetration percentage is 100% in Nepal, although, the connectivity may not be perfect, services may not be perfect, but most people have a mobile phone. And do you feel that people in your country, parents, authorities are aware of this problem of the dangers of addiction to young people?
Yes, sir. My grandson of 6 years old, he always look my mobile and playing the game. So I can't control him also. So how can I control to the users? It is the practical life, sir. It is the drug addict. Already Sri Lanka raised the questions also. There also, it goes in the spirituality level also. When the game is not going, the people cut their hands also. So this problem is also here. So how can we can prevent this drug addict problem in the internet? Same.
Yes, yes, quite right. But don't forget, we are here doing this Zoom session because we have the internet. We could not live without it. The way society is arranged at the moment, the way the information society is developing, we cannot, absolutely cannot live without the internet. We have to make it.
Yes. Each coin has two parts, one good and one bad. That is the.
Exactly. Cheryl, you have a question. Come in, Cheryl.
Oh, no. Can you hear me? Because I have really poor internet connectivity. If
I can
it's
hear
inaudible,
you.
let me know in the chat. Okay. I don't have a question. I want to play devil's advocate on this addiction issue. Let me, first of all, declare I am the mid to late 60s daughter of a very badly, but nevertheless successful person of a gambling addicted parent. So I know a little bit about addiction. Trust me, my father had no internet. But as an addictive personality, he found whatever reward it was in the games he played and the money he spent and wasted. So to me, addiction is where we have a harm coming in. I'm not going to be upset if I see children sitting in the sunshine reading books. So I don't see why I should be upset if I see children interacting with appropriate and safe games and activities via the technology which they will be living with, working with, and developing from. And I think we keep overlaying this hysteria about, oh, the internet's got something new. No, nothing new happens on the internet. It might be more concentrated, it might be spread faster, it might be more virulent, it might be more obvious, but honey, the human population have been doing bad things, cutting their throats, blowing their heads off and going to war, and doing very maladaptive things since we climbed down from the trees. And to be honest, if my 6-year-old granddaughter finds a reward from her online learning at home by playing Minecraft, as long as it's something she can talk to us about and share with us, I see no harm. Chapter and verse finished.
Excellent point. Thank you, Cheryl. As I said before, we absolutely need the internet for the progress of society. All of our democratic services from government to citizens are provided through the internet these days. And citizens' interaction in transactions with government are going up through the internet also. And we are teaching young people to become literate through the internet. I'm not talking about preschool classes. I'm talking about primary school, secondary school. We need it, but we have to educate people how to be discriminating, how to analyze, and to think critically about the stuff they see on it. And of course, some of us are those who produce that content, so we have to be careful what we produce. Are there any other questions? Let me see, any other hands raised at the moment? No other questions at the moment. Valencia, did you see any other questions that I have missed?
No, none so far, Winston. Although I was very curious to get back to a point you have raised earlier about the possible connections and collaborations that we see all the examples of. So if we draw on the points that all the speakers have made so far, all the different dimensions of digital inclusion, from digital skills to affordable connectivity to suitable content, that libraries can help their communities be meaningfully digitally included. There are also a lot of synergies and a lot of collaborations that are going on. Louise, I think, has been talking about collaborating with local government, collaborating with other organizations from the community, including technology connectivity providers. I think that we from Singapore had a wonderful example of collaborating with the Ministry of Education. So I was just wondering if we could perhaps get back to that point for a second. What are the other possible collaborations that we already see and that there's a potential for?
Okay, are you going to give us a list of people sectors we should collaborate with? The Ministry of Education, obviously.
Oh no, I was wondering if we could have more examples from our wonderful speakers who they have collaborated with so far.
Yeah, just to add on, we also work with the Skill Future Agency to infuse information literacy into some of the trainings and upskilling courses for the working adults. So it's a privilege for libraries, to be able to work with them.
Look, I totally agree. As we've already discussed, collaboration is important. But I think we've heard lots of perspectives from our three key speakers and others, but we don't have any perspectives from the Pacific Islands. Now, I see our good friend Dulcie Banyala here attending the session. Dulcie, have you got some ideas that you would like to give us quickly before we close the session? A view from the South Pacific.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for picking on me, Winston. But anyway, yeah, there are some ideas and there are some activities that are currently going on in the Pacific Islands. But I will much more focus on which I have experienced on in Vanuatu and in Palau. So for example, in Vanuatu, there are some women associations in the very remote areas, and as well as the education, the schools, the private schools. That's where the people, the librarians, they work with, and then they set up this small center with the 2 or 3 laptops or computers, and then invite the children to come on board and assist them to do some research and so forth. So these are the kind of stakeholders that we tap into, and at the same time we note and that the librarians or those that are based in remote areas are not that skillful. So we also assist. For example, we go through the telecommunications regulator, the Vanuatu Internet Governance Forum, for them to assist them, give them some kind of guides to help them, like what the Nepal has been doing. That's a really good guide, and that's exactly how we started off in these very remote areas. Yes, for the government participation, for example, in Palau, the Ministry of Justice are doing great in this, but at the same time, they have to work with the education and as well as with the service providers on the specific technology access, and which is much more kind of meaningful to them, especially using the cell phone, because in Palau, the experience is much more on cell phone than actually having to station on a desktop. I hope I'm contributing with some experiences.
Thank you. Thank you, Darcy. That's very, very interesting information. Collaboration across the community at grassroots level, in other words, not just collaboration with big, powerful organizations of the government and private sector, but also lower down in the community. Right, I think our time is up. It's already 1 hour, and all I have to say now is to thank you sincerely for all your presentations, 3 speakers, Louise, Sarah, and Gita. Thank you to all the people who asked questions. Thank you to Christine at the Secretariat and her team of tech ninjas, as they are called. And once again, thank you for attending the whole session, and I hope that you will go on to follow some of the other sessions in this conference and get some value from those too. And please write to us, write to me, email to say what you think of this session. And also the speakers, can I ask you to email me to say if you have attended any of the other sessions, what you think about them for future reference, because we're evaluating everything as we go along. Right, once again, thank you and good afternoon, good evening, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well done, Winston.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Winston, sir. Bye to all. Thank you.